about the bonding of a section of Don Street. Some logging outfits says they're going to go in there and cut all the trees down up there in the, housing plan up there off of Don Street, Norman, I guess, up in there. And, they, I know I called it, but the bonding company says, oh, it's bonded. I said, it can't be. We didn't approve anything.
So all I can tell you that is a gentleman named Val Troyer came in
right.
here.
Yeah.
He came in here a couple times with Tammy. He refused to talk to our solicitor.
Right. We called Dennis today.
He said that he had history and he did not want to talk to our solicitor, and my words to Tammy was, hey, if I'm selling my house and you want to buy it, I don't care if you're like the real estate agent, like you gotta deal with my agent, right? So I said it had to go. Dennis tried to reach out to him, no answer, so then I asked TJ if he could reach out to him, just because I thought maybe we can get it started with someone other than, and then I don't know that it really went anywhere with Mr.
He did call today.
He called me also. He said,
He finally called you.
he finally called me after he called Steve. I've dealt with him over the years.
He didn't like that.
It's not problematic. And the thing about it is, the roads belong to the taxpayers. There's no reason why the taxpayers should put the bill for damage to the township roads. So I've held him to task over the years at different townships. Because we represent about 40 places, so I've dealt with him over the years. He didn't like it, so, what's that?
I think he at one point told, Tammy that he was gonna keep the bond in his pocket, and if anyone tried to stop him or something, or, I don't know, it's weird.
Well, he called me
Apparently
today.
Harold had a conversation with him, because he's smiling. What happened, Harold?
Is it like me either or what?
Well, when he came in, he'd asked about the bond, and, he wanted to do a cash bond, cause he said it's only 200 feet on Dawn Street. Well, I told him, says cash bond, I'm gonna have to talk to the solicitor about that. So I called Dennis, and Dennis said, have him talk to me. But when I got back to him, he screamed. I dealt with him, so.
Oh, there you go.
Well, the thing about it is, he said he sent the agreement in, he signed the agreement, sent it in, he sent the bond in also. I said, well, that's news to me because my office is supposed to be handling the agreements and the bond. So I'm gonna call him back, since you guys have received nothing, I'm just saying, you can't use the township roads unless you bond the roads and sign the agreement, and it's effective.
It's so much easier, I mean, 3 visits here, and we sat in the lobby, and TJ got involved, and Harold got involved, and we got involved. It's just like, it should be just a business transaction. I don't know why it's so difficult.
But that's what, and if he doesn't bond the roads, if he uses our roads, then get the police involved.
Well, I think we had a problem with him once before, Dennis, as I recall, way back on Garvin Road. I believe Larry, wasn't he the one that was over there, and then after they pulled out, the road was all tore up and they just left town.
So,
You know, Denny, I have another question,
Sure.
comment, observation, add to that. And that's a residential area. Is commercial logging permitted there in the first place?
Well, in some places, we have what they call timber harvesting ordinances, basically it limits you with what you can do. I don't know if you can or not. Did we adopt that timber harvesting ordinance here before, or do you recall?
I don't recall that.
I'm to check into.
I think that ought to be researched.
I can look at it.
Well, look, see if you can find out what's going on, okay? And we'll look at it, we'll touch base with Mr. Torres today.
Yeah, it's tough to tell what they did between you being here and them being back.
I can give you my.
So, the only report that I have on, as you guys know, that, there was a deal with the fire hydrants in Union Township, and them not being paid for a year plus amount of time. So this week, our, one of our elected auditors, Suzanne Baden, sat here, in the evenings and did the research to see what Union Township paid in late fees and penalties for that fire hydrant bill not being paid. And that is the number on that board. $3,697.63 plus an additional 46. I forget what that was for, but so in the end, that is the unforgiven late fees and penalties for ignoring paying the fire hydrants for over a year. There was some late fees on the last bill that they paid when they subverted the $37,000 out of the storage account to pay it. without board action, and then the $1,000 payments, wire transfers that they made. That last bill's amount was forgiven, but Susan Bainan, this last week sat here and went through every bill for those months and added up the late fees and penalties. So they were just about $3,700. So it's $3,700 that could have went to something better than late fees and penalties for just ignoring a fire hydrant bill for over a year.
And related to that issue, we have Mr. Geiser here from the Volunteer Fire Department. I remember at the last meeting, I think you said it was 700 calls you made. How many calls? Can you stand up and tell us?
Well, now that would be the calls that were made during the time that you had no workman's comp
Yes,
insurance for the fire department.
from the lapse to reinstatement, there was 808 calls ran by the department for a total of a little over 1,900 hours, and 33 members at least answered one on calls.
With no workers' compensation coverage.
And basically, I was talking to David Cagle today, happened to do a funeral. But he said that you are a quasi-employee of your municipality the second you get called. So, the second they get called, he said even if I trip down my stairs going to the truck,
Yeah.
once my alarm goes off and I am on the way, that I am a quasi-employee of Finleyville. He's Finleyville. So when the Arima firemen got called, from the second that call went in, they were quasi-employees of Union Township with no workman's comp.
Right? Oh. Just thank God there was no accidents, nothing happened, that's all I can say. That's
So,
terrible.
again, I was not on, they signed the fire contracts or whatever for 22 before I got on the board, but you still have my apologies for the year that
We wanna thank you too, you brought it through fast, and the representative helped too, so.
yeah, I
Once
can't,
you found out, you got everything through pretty fast for us, so we do appreciate it. We really do.
both Andrew Kuzma and Steve and Larry all offered to take that personally in their cars to get that check
Right.
there, if it would make it any quicker.
You know, you don't know what a burden that was on Lenny.
Oh, I
The chief,
do.
it was really a burden on him.
It was a burden on us from the second we found out, and
We appreciate how fast you did once you found out.
we appreciate you guys, and again, I apologize if that ever happened in the first place.
Madam Chairman,
Mm-hmm.
let me quickly say something. At the last township meeting, in relation to the fire department not having the workers' compensation coverage, just as one instant, just one, what's been discovered down here, after 4 of us were appointed, after the old board walked out, except for you, that lack of due diligence, and to use due diligence is an understatement in this instance. If this had been the military, those responsible for that, I'll call it an oversight, would have been court-martialed. No question about it. Now we learn about the $3,700 in interest payments, fines, whatever the water company assessed. Again, these extra costs is just one example of what this township and the taxpayers encountered. There's going to be another one. It's going to rise on this agenda as we move along, and it's no mean amount of money again. And I wanna know, Mr. Makel, you're the solicitor, maybe you do have an answer. what can this board do by way of holding those individuals responsible for the position that this township was put in by their inaction? We have a claim against the township by one of the employees who walked out for
Unemployment or.
Yeah. I don't even know if that's the right terminology, unemployment. And we're gonna face that issue, having to pay the solicitor money to represent this township because of a lack of due diligence. Again, we're going to underscore, lack of due diligence is too soft the phraseology here. I've been asked numerous times by residents in this township, once this board was formed, and I know you other supervisors have, Larry, what are you guys gonna do about this? Are they just going to walk? We said, we've got to research it, we've got to do quite a bit of work, which a lot of it is been done by Michelle.
And my auditors, our auditors,
The auditors coming down here in the evenings,
free of charge.
trying to get this place straightened around. And I'm not going to be satisfied. I know I said I'd volunteer for a year, trying to get this work done and trying to discover what the hell happened here. And it's egregious. And I'm not going to be satisfied until I know, one way or another, definitively, what can be done about this.
Hopefully we'll get some more answers with the auditors tomorrow.
I think just a quick response, Mr. Squires, that I talked to Ms. Pettit, who's your special
Interim.
consultant or whatever, for interim township manager, whatever she is. There may be some issues with ethics violations. I'll keep those to my best right now, but there's some ethics violation possibilities. And those appear to be, we have to gather more information. And those could be a major issue for some of the individuals. I won't name them this time. There are some losses, just like this $4,000, I'll call it, or $3,700. The township sustained because of those penalties. Those could be subject to a surcharge action. I mean, that's pretty blatant in and of itself. You know, they have to take certain steps to protect the interest, or the township's interest, or the public's interest in the finances. That evidently wasn't. But that's just one of the facets that we're coming up. You know, I've been brought back, like you were brought back, October 31st. And I can tell you from my experience that it's a mess. Every time I think I get one thing done, somebody else pops up. You know, so there's a lot here we have to put together, but I don't like to move until I'm certain that I'm going to be successful. It's like you go to jury, you do a jury trial, you don't ask a question that you don't know the answer to. So that's the same way we have to go here. But there's so much here, I mean, there's no filing system, am I right?
We don't know where the escrows are. We don't know where the documentation for our escrows are. We gathered loose papers, but it's like it was like a salad. There's papers and we would file that this has to do with escrows and this has to.
Were they taking the money out of the escrow accounts to reimburse the general
We
fund?
have no idea. There's no QuickBooks for escrows in there that we can find, that Stephanie Pettit took the, her VPN laptop come to try to investigate the stacks of paper. She'll be back on Thursday, but we're looking at some of these developers that may have walked away, maybe close to $70,000 in arrears on their escrows.
See, that's something that can be subject to a surcharge action. You have to show that there's a loss for the township. So anyone who's on the board at the time that loss occurred, they would be responsible. And keep in mind, there is no insurance defense, because I've done both defense and prosecution of surcharge. There's no insurance defense, okay? No insurance coverage for it at all. And if you have 4 or 5 people that are surcharged, it also goes, they can go against the person who has the most money, they pay the whole thing.
Yeah, so we would start, the auditors I would meet them here, and we would start on a project like Overlook to do that billing. And it's such a mess, everything is just such a mess. So they had a person from a temp agency that would take, let's say, the Overlook checks. And then she would email Frank Palermo that Jim Smith on this date gave this amount of money with this check number, and this person did this, and this amount. So then I'm gonna guess, and that he was doing the entering in QuickBooks at his office, it wasn't being done here. So I'm again only assuming that the secretary's assistant treasurer was running the checks through the machine. So you have this person that's a temp agency taking the checks and doing these long emails to Mr. Palermo, assumingly was doing the entering into QuickBooks. And then, so like, you know what happens when 4 people touch the same thing? It would have been quicker for one person to take the check, enter it into QuickBooks and deposit it. But no, it's these long emails, it's this, and then every once in a while a number would be superimposed, or he would enter it into, some of these people had multiple properties, so like they would enter it into the wrong property, they had a rental in their own, and that's, it's so we went down that path for a while. We got it to the point where Stephanie Pettit and our treasurer Lori could try, because we're still trying to close out the Penvest loan, but then Stephanie comes up today with what she had to say. That we might have overpaid on some of the Overlook project.
Supposedly, you have a contract with the former engineer, which says basically the total contract price is, I think, $147,000. And you've already paid him over $167,000. So you overpaid him, not, the township overpaid $20,000 on a project where there's an agreement.
But that's where Stephanie, not only is Stephanie training the current staff, she's training them by doing, and this is all happening just because we're closing out this one. So part of closing out the Penvest was to get, they're paying, as far as I know, they're paying interest-only payments towards that system until this closes out. And so to get them to the point where they start amortizing their debt payment, so then that takes you start down this path to do this, and then that takes you over to here, and that takes you, and it grows, it's like.
There was no checks and balances to what was going on in terms of finance.
And there's so many people touching it. There's so many, there wasn't one person, I said, I as a supervisor could not get a key, but there was a temp agency person taking money out at that desk. I couldn't get on bank accounts, I couldn't get keys to things, without a bond, I couldn't even go in the C-can.
I remember.
Now, but there was a temp agency person, a non-employee of Union Township, taking checks at that window with people's bank accounts on it. And I, as a supervisor, couldn't get on the bank account.
Were those supervisors insured and bonded?
What's that?
Were those supervisors insured and bonded?
No,
Yeah.
they weren't bonded.
No, nor was the temp agency.
So you can't
oh my
get
God.
anything from your insurance either.
But if I had special rules. But now that I do have keys to the place and I can get my stuff, I just keep finding things. Our auditors and me, we really start out on something like the Petrovich's on Fox Lane. We try to find out, that brings you into more and more stuff. Like you try to find Mr. Duncan on Overlook, and you're on this mission, but it just unfolds. So you go on the server to see if you can see any payments for him, and then you see that, wow, this temp agency was taken up. This girl from a temp agency was taken. It's a mess. It's just a mess.
Dennis, in relation to to, that $20,000 concerning overlook.
Oh my goodness, we didn't get past supervisor reports.
If there was any further research done, was there any indication that the supervisors at that time took appropriate action at public meetings to authorize
I
those
really,
overpayments?
I really can't comment, because this, I just heard about this
We
afternoon.
heard, yeah, about 3 o'clock
Just this
today.
afternoon. I
They're
mean,
made, and it said they may be,
Have
she's
to check if there's a
researching,
vote on a change order or something, Larry, I would
there's
think.
no change orders.
There is
not
no-
in the meeting minutes anyway,
No.
that's all we can say,
Well,
in the meeting
well,
minutes.
I'm just
there's no
saying,
change.
you think that's what would have to be done, you approve
So now,
the change
so
order.
now what we have to do is the engineer, previous engineer, we still have, him quite a bit of money. So from my perspective, he should have got a change because the contract said so.
Right,
But what we have to do is deduct that $20,000 from whatever we owe because
From the
it's,
back end,
because it's basically, the engineer should have known what he's limited to. He should have known if he wanted to go above and beyond, he had to send a change order for the township to approve, which that's done.
but what Stephanie has requested from me is if I can get the original contract and any information through the service and stuff about, but she can't find anything in the meeting minutes that there was change orders and there was, the funding through PennDOT and stuff was specific, so. But that's a new project for me and the auditors this week to try to find, but thank goodness for them working for free because we're just finding 20,000 here or 4,000 there, or whatever way we can get money back.
every day it's something new, that's all I can
Every
tell
day
you,
it's something
it's just unbelievable, that's all, it is.
So, as far as the police report, there is none this meeting. I think there was, a little confusion there. It wasn't scheduled to have one. Okay, new business. Discussion and motion to approve a voting proxy to Washington County Executive Tax Committee. You wanna explain that?
What this is the Washington